I will. Yeah, so thank you for joining us today for the Entrepreneurship Resources panel at the Expo today. My name is Brian Duboff. I am the Center Director of the Small Business Development Center here in Santa Fe. We are a SBA partner. We are part of a large national network of about 1,000 offices across the country. Every state and every territory has an SBDC program. Here in New Mexico, our program is about, 34, 35 years old. And we have 18 offices across the state that are hosted by different colleges and universities. So my office here in Santa Fe is part of Santa Fe Community College. And our partners include the other host colleges, include CNM and Northern and UNM, the whole big long list of the great schools here in New Mexico. We provide free and confidential business consulting services. There is no time limit to the amount of time that we can work with existing and startup businesses. And to be honest, we have some clients that we've worked with for more than 20 years who come and they have an idea, and we help them write a business plan, and we help them get their first loan, we help them buy their business, we help them sell the business. So, we can work with people throughout the lifetime of their business. And we take great pride in sort of building those kinds of relationships with our clients and with the small business community. I have a small staff. It's myself and Debbie Collins. She's the assistant director of the program. She's been with us for about 19 years, and she really knows her stuff. She's also previously an SBA banker, so she knows the finance side of things. And Juliana Gutierrez is my assistant manager and part-time counselor. She's got some great skills with QuickBooks Online. She's a QuickBooks Online certified instructor. So if you need help getting set up, we don't do accounting, but we'll help you get your books set up. And so she's really good with that. We are one of 3 partners with the SBA. SCORE is another partner, and Bob's going to talk a little bit about his program in a minute. And then not represented here today is WEST, W-E-S-S-T. Nationally, WEST is usually referred to as women's business centers. So if you're familiar with that program, it's the same thing here. And I think one of the nice things about WEST that I'll mention for them is that they are a micro lender. So they're the one SBA partner that does loans. So if you're looking for a small amount of money, a few $1,000s, maybe up to $50,000 to get a micro enterprise started, they're a great local resource. And also they do some counseling as well. So there's some overlap in our programs, and I think maybe just as advice about how to select of the different SBA partners is find somebody who you have some rapport with, who understands your business, your project, and that you're comfortable working with. A lot of our clients are mutual, and they get something out of all of us. A lot of them end up saying, that guy Brian, he wasn't really understanding my business. I like working with Bob, and so they work with SCORE. So it's a very sort of personalized, customized service that we're all providing, and get good advice and get support wherever you can. So I think that's probably enough for the SBDC. I appreciate your joining us today, and I wish you good luck with the business.
Oh, I'm Bob Gallatin with SCORE Santa Fe. And like I said, SCORE is a national organization. It was founded in 1964, and LBJ is part of the program to help small businesses. Now, the SCORE chapter was founded in 1870, and currently we have 27 volunteers who have small business and background. Experiences range anywhere from finance to operations, marketing, many different programs. Dennis Siegel, in front row over here, is also one of our volunteers. Dennis's background is pharmaceuticals, operations, manufacturing, the ins and outs about it. We mentor people. We do it a little different way. We do it in teams. We have teams of 3 people or teams of 2 people. The idea that we don't get the idea of just one person. Teams try to listen to what the client is saying and then come up with ideas, and sometimes come up with alternate ideas the client can choose from. And as Brian said, we also work with SBDC, we work with West, we work with Incubator to co-mentor cases because of the number of volunteers we have and the expertise and the backgrounds they have. We can help them in certain areas. So we're very open, we've done that. Currently, we're still doing Zoom mentoring, but we hope soon to get back to face-to-face mentoring once we get a little more assurance and our national organization gives the okay to it. We also put on a whole series of seminars and workshops throughout the year. Typically, anywhere from 15 to 20, the numbers have been going up. And many of these have been recorded, as well as some of the national, SCORE national seminars and workshops. They're available on our website, and they're free. People just go in and they click on it. And there's a webinar talking about different business subjects. These are all, as I said, they're free. So we have 2 offices in Santa Fe. One is in the Incubator, and the other is across the street in the Federal Building. We have those 2 offices. On Zoom. Welcome. If you have any questions, please give us a call.
My name is Jessica Moose. I'm the program director at the Santa Fe Business Incubator. As Bob and Brian have mentioned, we all kind of partner together to work with companies at different but in similar ways, stages of their business development. So the Santa Fe Business Incubator, we're a 501c3 nonprofit economic development organization. We work with early to mid-stage startup companies by providing a place, a physical location for them to operate their business out of. We provide a program, and that looks like mentoring, coaching, access to certain advisors and networks. And the third part of our kind of core model is we have a network. So the incubator was started back in 1997. So over the past 20 years or so, we've developed a network of resource providers, different investors, different business experts. So if we can't specifically help you in our program, we typically know somebody within the network that we might be able to refer you to. Going back to kind of the 3 different components, as I mentioned, we have a physical facility that you can operate your business out of. It's made up of kind of your generic office space to very specialized warehouse space, and then some light manufacturing warehouses, some bioscience and shared wet lab space. So we work with all different types of businesses, everything from service businesses, you've got roofing, cleaning, chimney sweeps, all the way through like to software development, manufacturing, so people actually creating a product, to manufacturing companies, people that are creating products and services. And so, yeah, we work with them basically once they've generated some traction in the marketplace, because unlike SCORE and SBDC, we're fee-based. So whether you're paying a monthly fee to access the program or paying a monthly fee to have a physical presence at our facility, we always want to make sure that the company can sustain those costs without it becoming a detriment to their success. So that's one of the key differences between us of our resource providers. But yeah, I guess that's really the gist of it. Again, people, place, and program for early to mid-stage startup companies in Santa Fe. Yeah, give us a call. We're always willing to talk through your specific business case scenario. It's worth mentioning that on average, our companies are usually in our program like 2 to 3 years. Some of them are there much longer. So it's all kind of just depending on the growth of the company and how well they're kind of progressing as a business. We never kind of quote unquote kick them out of the program. We want to make sure that we're helping them get to some kind of stability before they graduate out into the marketplace, so that they don't have to worry about like, oh, is my business going to make it this month? Am I able to make rent? We want to make sure that they're at that kind of core stability so that they stay here in Santa Fe and they continue to hire people and continue to generate revenue and taxes for the local economy. Yeah, that would be what I would say. Does anybody have any questions about any one of our programs?
Question on your incubator. Is there like a waiting list to get in? What if somebody wants to get in? How does that work?
Sure. So the best way to get kind of quote unquote in or onboarded into the program is to either connect with me directly or visit our website and fill out our really short inquiry form, at which point we can determine if you are like a good fit for the program. And that typically looks like, again, just making sure that your company already has some traction in the marketplace, meaning that you're starting to generate some revenue, maybe you've got some personal financing, but really wanting to make sure that the company, again, can start to take on some additional costs. So yeah, at any point we might have a wait list. Right now we do. Our facility is actually kind of at capacity in terms of office space, warehouse space, and lab space. So if you're wanting a physical to physically be present at our incubator, we do have a wait list. That said, we're working with startup companies, working with small businesses where things are changing pretty rapidly within businesses. Sometimes some days are really good, some quarters are really great, others not so much. So that fluctuates in terms of, we couldn't say we have a space ready for you in 2 months because we just don't have that kind of certainty. But yeah, it's also worth mentioning, if you maybe aren't quite a fit for our program yet, we certainly would refer you to one of our resource providers. But we also have a pre-incubation program. So for people who just have a business idea, like, oh, I've been thinking about this, I don't really know if it's viable, I don't really know if there are customers, then we can put them through our 3-month pre-incubation program, which looks at market research and validation, customer discovery, and then ultimately business formation and operations like that. So it's a long answer to your question.
But
Pre-incubation is under a light, just like.
waiting for that. Yeah. So I had a follow-up question. So if somebody has, they've got an idea and they need to do actual physical work, and let's say build a prototype, they don't have customers, so sort of traction, sort of having revenues, they can be at that point. But they would need maybe lab space or manufacturing space in order just to build a prototype. Would that be a fit, or if it's not a fit, what would you tell somebody like that?
Yeah, I certainly think it would be a fit from like the business standpoint. The prototyping side of it, we have a partner called the Fab Lab Hub. They're a digital fabrication lab that can help with prototyping. They're currently on site at the incubator. I think they do most of their prototyping out of their additional facility at the higher education center. But so we're connected to these different resources. So as they progress through our pre-incubation program, we'll connect them to specific, other resources that can help them with prototyping, financing, or really whatever else they might need.
Okay, thanks.
Since we have a small group, let's just turn it around. We'd like to hear from you folks, who you are, your businesses, and what interests you might have in answering questions, asking us questions.
Yeah, what brought you?
What brought you?
I can start here. So Ms. Bishop Ortega. I'm an artist, so do a lot of like money, freelance stuff on the side when I can. A lot of stuff. But so one of the things like I got a master's in fine arts, and what they don't teach you is like, do you get an LLC once you graduate? Profit, with the degree I have, basically, it survives it in that academic setting. And after going through everything, I don't want to be in the academic setting, but I also don't want to do marketing all the time. I do photography and filming. So, which, if it frees me up to do my art, it's fine, but to be an artist full time, and you guys help with like directing the LLC, so basically what I do is like do like a documentary center for the Southwest. And that would be my idea, to work collab with other artists to make documentaries telling stories of the Southwest. So, because like I was at Duke University and they're all about the stories of the South, folklore of the South. So, so while I was there, I was like, well, nobody's telling the story about where I'm from. And, so how can I do that? Make money, bring in revenue, because I can apply for grants and fellowships all day long, but do I put that under an LLC, or do I put that under a profit, and put that on my name, like liability to myself? Like, you guys help me with all that stuff?
Yes.
You know, I would say you're a very typical kind of client that we would see here in Santa Fe, and across the state and really across the country. And so it's a great question, and it's something that I think we're all kind of comfortable having this sort of exploration about and trying to figure out what is the right format for you, and how do we, you know, guide and sort of advise on these sort of legal questions, because we're not lawyers, we can't give you legal advice, but sort of exploring what's the difference between a sole proprietorship and an LLC, and the possibility of going with a nonprofit kind of thing. And so, yeah, we all have these conversations, and hopefully making some progress. And I think I'll try to keep my comments short, but my favorite saying for small businesses is, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. And so we like to sort of, you know, go that journey with you and try to figure out what are the steps to get to whatever your goal is.
We've worked with many artists over the years, and typically come in great creative skills. Once you start talking business, start talking finances, your eyes go.
Yeah.
So we walk through that with them. Not to make them financial people, but to cover the basics.
Yeah.
You know, what do you need? What's the right approach? So yes, we work with many artists over the years to do exactly what you're talking about.
I'll put in a plug for West, who Brian's mentioned here, but what's really unique about West, and specifically West here in Santa Fe, is over the years, a lot of creative entrepreneurs have gravitated towards their program and towards their mentorship and advisors. And heavily because they're based in Santa Fe, they work with anything from jewelry makers to artisans to writers, you name it. They worked with a lot of different businesses in that same realm, in which case they do a lot of programs that are directly related to like the creative and artist industry. So they, I think, would also, in addition to all of us, would be a great resource to connect with when it comes to workshops and trainings. But also, like, this is what other, you know, similar type businesses have done in terms of the legal entity, and here's some of the pitfalls of some of them and others. I think we're even going to talk about the differences between them.
West was founded women entrepreneurs, self-sustaining team, and it was founded in Albuquerque. It's strictly in Mexico, and they're very focused on they do seminars for artists selling their goods online. So they do a lot. It's very important. And we all do stuff. Let's quickly touch. The gentleman just came in. What we're doing is we have a small group, so we're just asking, what do you do? Why are you here? So we can try to focus on your needs.
Because they don't have mics. So all of this is basically dead air. Yeah.
What was the organization? Was it West?
This was over. Let's deal these lines. So I actually can't see.
WESST.
Okay.
Oh,
Women's Entrepreneur Self-Sustaining Team.
okay.
But I'm gonna tell the next folks to take.
Yes, we're located at the Incubator.
Tell
But
the
all of
next
us work with
speakers
artists.
to
Oh, great.
keep audio stuff.
Storm, work with many of them. SBDC works with artists. So all of us have experience.
Oh, that's
And West was founded with women, but today they also work with men. They're not. Right.
You know, I would like to add one thing, just to maybe kind of help clarify. So we all work with pre-venture, people who have ideas, with early stage startup businesses, existing businesses. Because we get our authorization to do this work through the SBA. So I'll speak on behalf of the SBDC specifically. We have some restrictions about who we can work with and who we can't work with. And so our marching orders are to work with for-profit businesses. There are some very rare exceptions to that, but just basically we work with any stage for-profit business. So we could talk to you until you make that determination and you say, I'm definitely going to go get my 501c3. And then we've got some other referrals that we can make to you for assistance for a nonprofit, but that's not really our thing. And I will say that there is an excellent program out of Albuquerque, which used to be called the Center for Nonprofit Excellence. It was part of United Way. They have rebranded, they've got a new name. I'm sorry, I don't remember their name, but if you look up Center for Nonprofit Excellence and you're looking for help for a nonprofit business, that's a great resource here in New Mexico.
SCORE works extensively with nonprofits. And we have a working relationship with the Santa Fe Foundation where we do board training for nonprofits as a part of their organization. But we mentor people who want to start a nonprofit, and mentor people who are currently a nonprofit, but they have questions. They need assistance in some way. So we do both for-profit and nonprofit. We do not have any restrictions. Mr. Chairman.
I didn't have a direct question, actually, I was gonna ask, so obviously you do help with nonprofits.
Yes, we
And the
do.
main thing is just tax sheltering, right? Is that pretty much what this thing, or is there more to it than that?
Well, there's a lot more to it. I mean, some people get into it thinking it's what's going to happen, but you also have to be very careful too.
Yes.
You have to get approved to be a nonprofit. You file it with the IRS, IRS reviews it. And on your submission, you may or may not be granted the 501c3 or 706. There's a whole 9 different.
They just like ignored all their pain questions.
You have one.
No, I was just thinking
Yeah.
for down the road.
They haven't asked anything, they just
Way
shut it down.
What kind of business?
See, right now, what I do is I'm a salesperson, so I mean, I'd be a face click to any business, maybe even this, but, I market myself directly to people, and that's what I'm good at. So, whatever the product or service, something that we can do that would be a repeat business, something with residual, something that we can build, and, something that I want to do, but
What the lady?
So they're having a little bit of trouble hearing our commentary on recording. So we'll just repeat your questions if you have specific questions for us. I just wanted to mention that. It's like dead air on the other side of it when you guys talk, unfortunately. Ma'am, what brought you to our panel today?
In the past, I was in business, construction business for the next 7 years. My path is ready to and be writing and financial.
She's like,
Currently, I'm trying to bring the power of the some of the state gaming departments to maybe travel. People that are in the food, and so I've spoken to different organizations out there in the convention center. And so in speaking, when they coming in here and listening to the speaker here on the left, he said that there's an organization out of Albuquerque who used to be under the United Way, or is still affiliated with the United Way or not.
I'm not certain about that, but their name was Center for Nonprofit Excellence, and you can still find them with a Google search to know exactly what their current name is and their current status.
And would they, how high up in the chain of command are they in the state? as far as the nonprofit organizations? Would you say they're at the top of the umbrella?
What do you mean chain of command?
Let's say that a person was able to restructure some of the money as a pilot program, and some of the monies aren't going to some of the companies or organizations that it's not being channeled to. And I have to go through a nonprofit in order to have these monies then redirected to food insecurity, famine, maybe in other countries, or it actually could happen here. Because of course, because of climate change, the southern hemisphere is going to be impacted more unless we get a handle of the methane that's being poured out in the ponds on the other side of Russia, which now needs very much to be addressed through engineers, scientists, so they can capture that methane before things over. So my point is, given that information, which nonprofit organization would it be easier to have that money channeled into?
I would suggest that you go to the Santa Fe Community Foundation to start. They have a program focused on the environment. And if you're looking for money, then you can work with them to see if monies might be available, because they pull from many different sources. But they're here in Santa Fe. But their last newsletter came out, and it was focused on the environment.
Okay, and the other name is that.
Santa Fe Community Foundation.
All right, thank you very much.
John?
I'm Casey Delmore. I'm the business growth manager for City of Santa Fe Economic Development.
I probably recognize you.
Yes, we sponsor some of your
Right.
programs. So I just wanted to pop in and say hi and hear what you guys are up to.
I would like to say, welcome Casey, the Santa Fe City Economic Development and the Santa Fe County Economic Development and the State Economic Development are all great programs that we partner and collaborate with. There are some really terrific programs out there for existing businesses like LIDA and JTIP, and the city's got a good program as well. And so there's a lot of resources out there, and I think that's really what I think people want to know about is what are all the variety of resources and how do I find them? And I think that as a single point, you know, when you're working with the Incubator, with West, with SCORE, with us, we can make those connections for you. And you know, the lady had a very interesting question, but as much information as you tried to give us, it's still not quite enough to give you a clear, direct answer about who you should be talking to. So, you know, it's sort of, we're really like verging on counseling at that point, and that would be done in a more confidential setting to really try to give you the best advice possible.
Right. We act as almost like a gatekeeper to all these resources in the sense that we're familiar with all of them. We typically know enough about each of them to be able to make a really kind of confident referral. But yeah, that's what the whole point of it is, that we partner. We offer similar services and different kind of perceptions and opinions. And that's all so helpful when you're just starting a business. You're going to come up against people that are going to believe in what you do, and you're going to come across people that are just like, I don't understand it and I never will. So to Brian's earlier point, finding the resource or the organization that you can build a rapport with and can connect with is so important. And you don't really know who the best fit will be until you just start talking to us and start connecting with us. You can connect with us at any point in your business. Anything from I have an idea to I have, you know, a 200 staff team and I need help with, oh, actually, I guess maybe that might fall outside of the SBA guidelines of small business, but that you know, you have specific questions, just contact any one of us and we'll do our best to get you an answer as soon as possible.
And remember, for all of us, it's free. Well,
Theirs are
right,
free.
right. But it's not expensive.
Yeah, but even your first initial phone call, we'll talk, we're happy to talk to you and direct you.
There are a lot of people who want to help. That's the thing. And it's just a matter of learning where to go. And a lot of times, we've had people come in, they think they have an idea, but they're really not sure. And they take 2, 3 visits. Typically, we schedule 1 hour. And it needs to take 2 or 3, but they come, we talk about the initial thoughts. We go home, come back in a couple of weeks, because they've now had 2 weeks to think about it. More questions come up. And out of that, what the objective then is to find, is there a viable idea and what is that idea? From then, you start saying, okay, now, here's the idea. It seems viable. How do I make it happen? That's what SBDC, Incubator, West, and School. That's where we come in more to help. But it sounds like you have this, you're an artist. You want to be creative. You want to take those talents and use those talents. But you realize you also have to have a certain amount of business. Okay, how much do you need? How do you get it? That's where all of our organizations can help you.
And, you know, I think maybe to even sort of broaden it out further, because I was thinking we were just talking about our own programs, but really under the larger umbrella of the NMSBDC network, there are a couple of other organizations that I should mention just to get their names out as a resource. So there's the PTAC program, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and they are funded by the Defense Logistics Agency, the DLA. So if you're interested in doing government contracting, procurement, contracting, selling to the military, selling to the government, that could be the federal government, the state government, even some of the local municipal governments, any kind of government contracting goes through PTAC counseling. So we would work very closely with them. We also have an IBA, an International Business Accelerator. So anything to do with global trade, importing and exporting, if it creates tax dollars here in New Mexico, job growth in New Mexico, they can provide some technical assistance as well. And we also have a TCA, Technology Commercialization Accelerator, and they help with commercialization of like stuff out of the labs. They help with intellectual property stuff. They help with trademark issues. So there are so many resources, and all you have to do is sort of ask the question, I have this idea, I need help with this thing, where do I go, who do I talk to, and information just starts tumbling out of all of us.
Thank you for your information. Like a wave through the room.
I want to just take a moment because Casey is here. The Incubator is heavily supported through the City of Santa Fe's Economic Development Department, the State's Economic Development Department, County's Economic Development Department. And so we couldn't do what we do without the support of our local government. So we're really here to help create jobs, broaden the tax economy, diversify the economy, right? Heavily tourism-based, government-based jobs here in Santa Fe. The Incubator was initially created to help diversify that. So now we've got everything from the bioscience sector, which is really starting to take off here in New Mexico, that we're happy to support. Technology companies, high-wage jobs, service businesses that, you know, maybe won't have like a larger return, but they create a lot of jobs here in Santa Fe. So those are all just very important things. So we're very thankful to our sponsors, our donors, and our contracts for keeping us.
Any other questions from the audience?
We have our panel questions. If anybody would like to look at the panel questions that you have in front of you, maybe look at one of those.
Was there any in particular you think we should hit on?
I mean, you know,
Are there any online questions?
we don't have anybody online at the moment.
Okay. Cool. We've got a couple of different questions that we generated. For instance, like the importance of knowing and being able to understand your financial statements as a business owner. Bob, did you want to touch on that?
What do you say, financial?
I did.
Financial statements usually, I'd say for probably 80% of our customers. Oh, I don't want to hear about them. I don't like numbers. I don't want to do that. But I emphasize to people that you don't have to know how to do them as long as you can afford to pay someone to do it. But you better understand what they tell you. And we started a business. And I was a small business owner twice. And to me, the most important financial document for a small business is cash flow. Because it tells you whether you're going to have money to pay your rent, to pay your utilities, to pay for your employees, all your expenses, because you're looking at how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, and whether it's going to be at the end of the month and you cover your expenses. So for a small business, it's really important to understand cash flow. A balance sheet is a document that tells you the general health of the business, but it's history. It tells you what happened. An income statement is the same way, it's history. But again, you better understand. We had a fellow who was a CPA, one of our volunteers, and he since moved out of state. He always enjoyed telling the story. He had a client as a CPA, and the client was mainly interested in playing golf, but the business was doing well. And so one day he sat down with his client. He said, and he was a fellow was a fairly new client at that point, and he sat down with him. Went through the financials, and it turns out the person who had been the bookkeeper had been embezzling money. And not just a little bit of money, it's a lot of money. But he never looked at the financial statements. He never got to understand what they meant. And he lost tens of thousands of dollars because he didn't understand it. So for financials, for me, it's understand what they say. Find somebody you can afford to pay, prepare them for you, but make sure you look at them. They're important documents. They tell you your health. The bank, if you have to go borrow money, that's the first thing the bank wants to see. Anybody making a loan, they want to see your financials.
You guys programs are helping people establish business credit. Tips and tricks.
Right. Tell them, what are they going to be looking at? What do the banks look at? What documents they look at? How does your stand? Now, if you're starting out, what's your personal score? It shows that you had real trouble. You're going to have trouble with money. So what do you need to do to fix that?
There's some programs at the state level, Economic Development Department, they have the collateral assistance program. They're partnering with local banks and financial institutions here in New Mexico to help provide a percentage of your collateral. So if you don't personally have that collateral for that business, but you've got, you kind of meet their eligibility and requirements when it comes to number of employees or revenue or having a business plan generated, there are programs to help offset some of that collateral too. So many programs are available to you as a small business owner, as a prospective business owner. It's just a matter of just connecting.
Do the macro loans like show up on your business credit like you got? I'll go for one of those like that. Look just like a bank loan.
That depends on the lender. So some of the micro lenders will, I don't know what the West policy is. Some do and some do not report it. Depends how micro they are as an organization.
At what point is it like, well, it's not enough to really help somebody get, or just get whatever you can?
You can get a copy of your report for free and see if it's on there.
I'm talking about like if you qualify for a macro loan, like if it's not enough, it's worth going through. Or should you just get any type of capital you can?
I guess it just depends on, as always, like the multiple answer, like it depends. on what you're anticipating using the capital for. So if you can use this micro loan to leverage it for additional capital, then sure, maybe it would be worth it to kind of go through it, so to speak. I wouldn't necessarily, and maybe you guys have an opinion on this, say it hurts business to take on micro loans.
No. Especially the reporting and paying.
Well, if it's not part of my credit, why would you tell me that letting it happen? That's just, you just bullshit.
I think that we would probably step back from that question and say, it's not about credit, it's about what is going to help move your project forward in a way that is financially responsible and likely to succeed. Because we're really concerned about long-term success rates, right? And so, you sort of threw out that question and it sounded like half like a joke. Should I take whatever credit should I take whatever money I can get? Well, maybe, because sometimes, you borrow money and it hurts you. Sometimes it's not really going to help you. So you might be able to get a loan, but will your business plan and your sales projections support paying that loan back, plus paying yourself and paying your rent, right? Because first you got to pay the bank. So these are the sort of more in-depth conversations that we will have with you to help you figure out what's appropriate in terms of how much borrowing, what's even likely, right? Because yeah, there's a lot of loan programs out there, but to be honest, as a pure startup, they're hard to access. And so just having a real reality-based conversation about where are you with your business? Are you pre-venture? Are you existing business? How good are your records? And what do you really need to move the project forward? And is this a 5-year plan or is this a 6-month plan?
That's where it all comes back to writing a plan.
Even just like a 1-page, just getting all the ideas down on paper.
Does not need to be a 50-page document. And a business plan also is a living document. Not something that should be done, put up on the shelf and collect dust. If businesses change, some businesses start off, they're doing A. But 3 years down the road, they start B, they see B becomes C, and A falls to the wayside. So, again, that's changing the business plan. And if you're going to go borrow money, you don't ask for money. They want to know that you're thinking like that, that you're not just blindly assuming things. The other reality too is for a startup, banks don't lend money to startups. It's rare. But there are other sources. You find those other sources, the micro, the West. Because banks, we avoid risk.
Yeah, that's the hard part of getting grants is that typically they already know who they're committed to. So what they'll say is, well, hey, we apply next year. And so it's like, so you don't want to rely on grants. That takes a lot of writing.
You write your own grants?
Yeah, try to write your own grants together. It's a whole different language in itself.
Right.
And it's just because it's exhausting. So you end up taking a marketing job, no longer, you're not doing your marketing anymore. Yeah, so.
It's worth mentioning too,
What do you
though,
mean?
because there's specific grant programs here in the state that are offered from the state's economic development department, from like the regional development corporation, from other kind of small entities that are giving out, again, they're very small amounts of money, but they can sometimes be used for marketing or working capital or to buy equipment. But that's all worth mentioning, that depending on the grants that you're receiving, we've had companies affiliated with our program that have applied year after year after year. Maybe their businesses haven't changed, but you're still building awareness within that specific organization that you're applying to. So yes, it can be very frustrating at times when you apply for multiple and still haven't received them. But even just kind of going through the practice and building in nonprofit speak, like your case for support, there's some of that you're going to continue to use regardless of the grant you're applying for. So it's worth kind of going through that exercise to find out what criteria criteria they're looking for, preparing that, and then again, just kind of applying it.
All right, guys, that's our time.
Okay. Right. But thank you all so much for joining us. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You can visit the Incubator's website and one of our websites. If you want to stick around and ask anything specific to your business, you're welcome to. But thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, good luck.